Hello.
Come here. Everybody else here?
Hi.
Hi, BZ. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Okay.
That didn't sound very hearty.
Oh, well, we're kind of waiting for the rest of the group who are currently involved in the, oh, Rita's here,
I'm here.
in the,
You know what? I got to go get my cord and plug my computer in. It's slow.
Okay, sorry. I'm wearing a number of different hats tonight, but I'm not the meeting host. Where am I?
A lot of choreography for a small town.
you what?
Rita and Miriam and I and Susie
Bouncing
just-
around.
all just came
Why
from
am
the
I
select board.
here twice?
If we had two computers, we could do it simultaneously.
I don't know. I have
That
no
would
idea
be
why I'm
fun.
here twice.
That's what I should have done. I should have had my laptop here and my,
You could have talked both directions.
actually, I had both my computers going this morning as I was trying for another vaccine appointment.
Did you make it?
No, but it was really for Michael, not for me. I got one yesterday for
Cool.
tomorrow, remarkably. It's like you feel like you've won the lottery. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, we should go ahead and get started, Alan. I think
We don't have a quorum, do we? It's
we
you and me and
1,
Michael.
2, 3. Oh,
We need
Oh,
one more.
no. Our best choreography, and
well, Linda's supposed to be here,
and Elaine was on the other one.
and Elaine. Yeah, I know she's
Elaine's
coming.
critical. She's like the
Do you guys, has anybody talked to you about the Historical Commission representation?
No.
Oh,
You want to tell us while we're waiting?
Penny.
yeah, we met last week, and there was initially Karen Zerwanka had volunteered to be the representative, but she does not have internet. And so I think our chair was going to reach out to Alan to talk about whether that was really viable, because like we hand deliver documents to her. We take turns bringing her stuff. So I don't know how that would work for the CPA. So
Okay, I think we have a
hopefully you'll hear
quorum.
from
So now we now have a quorum. So the reason for the meeting tonight is to look at 3 proposals that have been proposed to the CPC. One of them is from the Conservation Commission for Southbrook Conservation Area, the Recreation Commission for Community Garden, and the Shutesbury Mountain Bike Trail Association for, again, something in the Southbrook. I'd like to take them in order. I'd like to do the community garden proposal first, because I think that it's pretty straightforward. And the next one for the Southbrook, I think is also straightforward, except it overlays with some of the mountain bike stuff. So I'd like to wait for that to second and third. Any objections?
No?
No,
So the CPC has done a pretty good review of these proposals at our last meeting. And as far as I think the CPC is concerned, we are ready to vote on these proposals. But before we do that, and I'd like to remind everybody that we're really stuck between a rock and a hard place, because Rita and Michael and
Linda.
Linda.
Oh.
No, not Linda.
You don't have to go.
No?
Anyway, we're going to lose
Oh.
pay for quorum.
we're going to lose our quorum at 7:10. So we got to get through this before then. So if there are any pressing
Alan?
questions, we'd be glad to answer them. If not, I would like to go pretty much directly to the vote on the community garden.
Excuse me, Alan.
Yep.
This is Linda, and I just want to bring a point of order forward that I am not going to leave at 7:10 because I'm going to stay here so that that if we need to continue, we will have a quorum because we have 5 sitting members. We have a quorum of 3 with Elaine, myself, and yourself.
We only have
Right.
5 now.
Yes.
Who left?
Well, we don't have Margie.
But she's still a member of the
Oh,
board,
that's
still a member of
true.
the
That's
committee.
true. Yeah.
So,
true.
so
Okay.
we have
Whatever.
6.
Yep. You're right.
Right.
You're right. So we need to do something about that.
Yes, we do. And I've been wondering what to do about it. In any event,
Michael's here too, though.
yeah,
But I'm gonna leave at 7:10 too.
You gotta leave, you gotta leave.
Okay, let's
You
move
gotta
on.
leave. Let's just get going. Does anybody have any questions about the garden proposition? The idea is to put a community
Susie does.
garden behind town hall. The total amount being asked for is 23,000, of which 20,000 is in CPA funds. Are there any questions?
I have,
Susie.
Susie,
hi. So this is a public hearing where people ask questions and make comments, is that right?
yes,
On the projects, okay. So I know that lots of heads have been put together for this project and lots of ideas have been considered. But I wondered if the discussion had run through the idea of citing the community gardens at lot 032. And if there is no water there now, then delaying it on the hopes that there would be a library project
Yeah.
that could,
Elaine,
that could.
you want to,
I can answer that. We had a survey done and we had 21 respondents to the survey. And we gave everyone a choice as to where they would prefer to have it. Behind town hall, at the elementary school, behind the fire station, and lot 032. And 50%, the majority of the people wanted it behind town hall. And we thought that was the best place to put it because it has water. There is the potential to go in to use the bathroom if necessary downstairs. And there was parking available. And lot 032 has a lot of issues, and there actually could be a building site or whatever in the future. And so we didn't think that that was the appropriate place.
Also, since we wouldn't know where the library would be sited on that lot, it would be hard to know where to put the gardens at this point.
I just feel, so now it's onto the feeling and opinion part, which is tearing up the space behind town hall. It would be hard to put it back if we did end up having a library and a good site down there for a garden. So my preference is that the project wait to be a garden in conjunction with the library, which would offer water, bathrooms, parking, and all those things, and sort of centralize our community activity. So that's just my preference.
Linda,
Just a note, Susie, is that relative to that site at lot 032 and the potential for building there, there are also wetland considerations. So the amount of space that, open space that could potentially be available to the garden, you know, that would be a significant question, you know, ornamental versus what the is being proposed relative to a community garden and the type of space that would be needed.
Elaine,
I also wanted to let you know, Susie, that the garden is not going to be located right behind town hall. It's going to be located to the far southeast corner of the lot, which is right now just a bunch of brambles and open space, which is relatively flat and unused. It's not going to be anywhere near the space that would be used as a, for town meetings, et cetera.
Rita,
And while we're all anxious for a new library, we're talking years and years before we're going to have a library there. And I think there's real interest in a garden now. So it seems like the rec committee kind of did their due diligence on this and figured behind the town hall.
do I hear a
Makes lot of
motion?
sense.
I'll move to approve the proposal to spend $20,000 in CPA funds to support a community garden behind Town Hall.
Michael,
Yes.
excuse me, you might want to restate your motion that we recommend.
Yes. We recommend that town meeting consider supporting the project as stated. How's that?
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Who?
Rita.
Oh, Rita. We'll go around in order. Rita,
Aye.
Rita, aye. Michael,
Dick Chiara, aye.
Ellen, aye. Linda, do we have you? No?
Yep, Scott, I.
Scott? I'm also taking minutes so that Elaine didn't have to tonight. Elaine?
Should I abstain since I'm on the committee?
No, I don't think so, because you are the rec committee
Okay.
representative, so.
Leo, aye.
Okay. The ayes have it. Motion passed. The second item on the agenda is the town beach conservation proposal. This proposal is to look at, to do an assessment of the it's from the Shutesbury Conservation Commission to look at the Southbrook and Town Beach areas and do an assessment of the trails, condition of the trails, make some plans for improving the trails, et cetera. So the funds would go to hiring a trail consultant, and then actually the work of doing some of the work would be volunteer labor. So the amount being asked is $2,500, $1,500 for the consultant and $1,000 for some of the work. And there's no matching funds. Any comments, questions?
Penny, do you want to say anything? Or anybody from the Conservation Commission?
I think Alan did a good job of summarizing things. I mean, I will just say this spot is the largest conservation area in Shutesbury. It's only 90 acres. It's not that big, but it has the potential to be even more used than it is now. And it's there close to the library's kayak operation in the summer in typical years. And the Bill Elliott Garden that was put in, there's parking there. So it makes a nice little recreation area focus for the town.
Anybody else?
I would just
Oh,
say,
I was just going to say, because I'm on the Conservation Commission, that we wholeheartedly supported this.
Yes. Any other questions, comments? Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to, you
Go
go.
ahead, Alan. Go ahead, Michael.
I'll move to recommend the project by the Conservation Commission for trail research, et cetera, for the Southbrook Conservation Land for the amount of $2,500.
And I'll second it. That's Elaine.
Wayne. Okay, we'll go in order. Rita,
Carol, I.
Alan, I. Linda,
Scott, I.
Michael,
Dick Chiara, aye.
and Elaine.
Leo, aye.
Passes unanimously. All right. So the third proposal that we received is from Philip. I think he's here.
Yes.
Yeah, you are. Oh, there you are. Right. This is a proposal from the Shutesbury Mountain Bike Club to build a network of mountain bike, single width mountain bike trails in the Southbrook Conservation Area. And once again, there will be a lot of work done by local members of the club. So one of the issues in this particular proposal is that the proposal we just approved is going to do a lot of analysis in the Southbrook area. And the question is how to fit this in with that. And I'm willing to listen to any suggestions.
Can I start it off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the proposal I submitted, I resubmitted the proposal. I amended it based on our discussions at that last Zoom meeting. And the way I amended it is that this grant proposal is contingent on receiving all the necessary Conservation Committee approvals. So it's written so that it is contingent on their, they want to walk the site and see where the trails would be, and then wait for the outcome of their consultants' work, and just make sure that that there's enough room all around for these mountain bike trails. Make sure they don't go into any wetlands, make sure there's no conflicts with any existing hiking trails or any, if they end up rerouting any of the hiking trails because of this consultant's work, just to make sure that there's, room for both sets of trails. So, this proposal, the reason I got it going now is just because of the, the approval timelines. And if we waited a year, there would be a further delay, another year before the trails would be rideable. So that's why I'm kind of jumping the gun to get it approved now, or at the town meeting, and then wait for the approval of this Conservation Committee afterwards. So that's I just wanted to explain that up front.
Okay, so we did get a letter with respect to this proposal from the Open Space Committee.
Yeah.
And they raised two concerns. I'm sure most of the committee members have seen this, but for those of you who haven't, one of the concerns was the impact on the Southbrook Conservation Area, how things are going to be handled in the future, who's going to take care of that, who's going to be responsible for closing the trails if it's too wet, and so forth. The second, so I can read this if anybody has wants more information. The second concern was, this is a privately sponsored project on town conservation area. Now, the Conservation Commission owns the property that it's on. So the Open Space Committee says they would like to partner with an existing town committee to assure long-term monitoring and maintenance. And they also encourage the Conservation Commission and the applicant to develop a memorandum of understanding prior to their approval of the project. Private to the, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it should consider questions like, what is the long-term management plan? Who will maintain the trails? How will usage by hikers and bikers be kept separate? If it's only one, if the mountain bike trail is intentionally one user wide, how is the traffic to be managed, and so forth. So those are the questions we got from the Open Space Committee. Okay. Discussion?
I had a question, I guess, for probably Penny, since she and Gail were the ones who wrote that letter. I'm just, given that it's rewritten contingent upon Concom approval, and all the research, do any of the concerns raised in the letter sort of get mitigated knowing that the Concom would have to approve and sort of do all the pre-work and that stuff? Or is it still sort of problematic the way you hear it, Penny?
I don't know what the conversation has been with the Conservation Commission, so that's hard for me to respond to.
Okay.
I can comment.
Go ahead, Mary.
I don't think we've seen this revised. Maybe it's been sent out and I just haven't reviewed it. I don't know if we've seen a revised proposal. Have we? Phil?
I sent my revised proposal. It was a revised grant proposal to the CPC. So I
Okay.
didn't send
You
it to
didn't
you
send it to us,
guys,
right?
but I did send, I don't know if you've seen it yet. I did send the proposed map with the trails inscribed on it, that I'd used that GPS software
Oh,
and
okay.
had flagged and marked the trails. So I sent that all to Liam.
Okay.
So I did update you guys.
Yeah, maybe they were just going to send it out before our next meeting. So we really haven't reviewed any of this, and obviously had lots of questions, as did the open space committee, about how this was going to interact with the hiking trails and the wetlands, and how maintenance was going to be managed, as well as protecting wetlands during maintenance activities, make sure things weren't, that there wasn't brush clearing that got dumped in down slope areas. So there were a lot of unanswered questions. I think we felt we're not in a position to offer an opinion at this point.
Anybody else? Yeah, Elaine.
Elaine does, yeah.
I'm wondering for you and Rita to tell me, is it possible that I know we've had trouble in the past with putting out funds and them not being used and not being able to bring them back. And I guess my question is, can we make this a contingent on its feasibility? Because I understand what Phil is saying, in that, it's another whole year if he has to wait until next year after the Concom has reviewed the projects and everything. Is there any way that we can make this something that is the monies being spent are given contingent upon them being okayed by the Conservation Commission?
I don't know the answer to that, Elaine.
Well, I think the one way we could do it is in a grant agreement. So were we to award this, then we would execute, and particularly because it's not a town committee, we would execute an agreement that states, how, when, why the money would be released, what the conditions are of the release of any money. And that's what's, grant agreements are used by CPCs all the time. It just so happens, we've never had this, we've never had an outside group. So we've always had intra-municipal CPA grants previously.
It seems
Except for
like,
habitat.
Except for habitat.
Right.
And habitat, yes, that's right. Thanks, Linda.
I mean, I'd be inclined to try to do that. I mean, given my old job as a program officer who gave out money with grants, what you want to have is objective milestones. And I think there's two that we could write in. I mean, one is the project has to have a signed MOU by the Concom. So that's a yes or no. It either has it or not. And then the other, I think, would be a written statement by the Concom that their satisfaction of the project is such that it can move forward. So if those two things are submitted, it's really clear. So it's not a subjective kind of thing, and it leaves the process open to happen. And if those check marks happen, then the money can get dispersed.
Right.
Linda?
So I appreciate, Phil, all your extra work to update your application. I have a concern, and which is that our job is to vote to recommend or not. So all the conversation about, conditions, etc., are very preliminary, and at this point, in our process as a CPC, Phil's application does not have some of the requirements, has not met some of the requirements, which are as we've talked again, has a actual permission to use the site, from the owner. And, and I know we're talking about, a possible contingency, but in terms of annual town meeting, which is the next step, there's also no formal support from a relative town committee, meaning the Conservation Commission, open space, recreation. Those. are not
Excuse
included.
me, sorry. The letter I got from Open Space, it felt like it was a tentative approval from them.
Linda, can I ask you a clarifying question?
Yeah.
It seems like there's 2 time points. So was there committee support at the point of application? Or the other alternative, is there committee support at the time of town meeting? And so I don't know, I guess I'm looking to figure out, if you're saying at the point at which they applied, they didn't have committee support and therefore they truly aren't eligible because they didn't have a requirement, or is it that it's awkward going to town meeting?
So Michael, let me clarify that point just
Yeah.
for a second. I don't know, did you see the letter from Penny and Gail?
Yeah, I did.
So the first paragraph of it says, we're interested in encouraging the creation of a new recreational opportunities for Shutesbury. To that end, we support the concept of creating a dedicated mountain bike trail in town. In fact, the upcoming open space and recreation plan survey that will go out to town residents this spring includes a question to determine the level of interest in this specific activity. So Philip is right there. There is a tentative approval of this idea.
Yeah, I guess it's how you read that. Is it a yes or a no?
The second paragraph says, however.
Yeah, well, there are
Sorry,
conditions.
Phil. Sorry, but we have a process, and in terms of evaluating applications and voting on them, and it doesn't, to me, it sets a precedent to consider approving an application or recommending an application to town meeting when it's not complete. It doesn't have the things that we've asked for.
Well, if we did this, we wouldn't submit it to town meeting if it wasn't complete. The submission would be contingent upon the information that we decide we want to have in it before it ever goes to town meeting. If it's not there, it would never go.
But if we vote, the thing is, if we, I don't see how we can't vote contingencies. We can't do that now. We can't do that in advance of town meeting.
Says who?
That's setting conditions on it. We can't.
But when you say you can't, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I want to know where it says we can't do that.
We make, when we, like with Habitat, it came to town meeting, and then once the town approved the use of the funds, then the grant agreement comes into play.
But I think, Alan's got a good point, which is that, we can introduce it to town meeting with articulating the contingencies. You want to communicate the message to town meeting. But I guess my question to you was, Linda, it sounds like because it's not a clear yes or a no right now,
Correct.
you can't go forward. But that's coming from the committee. It doesn't take away our ability to, if we interpreted it as, yes, there is committee support, we could then approve it with conditions, which would then get reported out to town meeting.
Miriam?
Well, I'm just wondering about the time frame if this were not approved, if this funding cycle, because if it was made conditional upon the survey being done for the Southbrook Conservation Area, that's not going to happen until the next fiscal year, right? So that's going to be going into July. And then that has to be completed, and then the Conservation Commission would have to review the proposal with that in mind. And I don't know how long that will take. So it might be that it wouldn't get approved for actually implementation until maybe the fall, in which case it may become a weather-related issue, as opposed to putting it off for the next funding cycle where, it might be good to go by July 1st then.
Right. I think, Miriam, what we talked about last time is that if we went through with contingencies, that the work could, the project could get going in the spring of 2021, 22.
22.
So otherwise it has to wait for town meeting, and then it would be the fall of 2022. So
Right.
it is a considerable period of time, but
6
it's
months.
well in advance of, a whole full nother cycle.
Right.
Penny here, just a quick comment to follow up on what Miriam said. I don't think you would do trail work in the spring, just, I don't do a lot of trail work, but I think typically it's done during the dry season. And I think well, I don't say we anymore because I'm not on the commission at this point, but I would suspect the commission would want work to be done in the dry season, as is true with so many projects that have much less impact at that point. So I guess I concur with Miriam that delaying this by a year won't significantly slow down the project. And I think the Open Space Committee, the Recreation Committee, and the Conservation Committee will have a much clearer idea of where things stand in the next cycle of CPA grants. And I think Philip could put together a much stronger proposal when he already had the information from the assessment that's going to happen hopefully this summer from the other Southbrook property project. And so I would encourage you to just postpone this by a year. I think it has the potential to be a great project. I think there are just a lot of missing pieces at this point.
I just had a thought. We had a conversation where we were looking at the bylaws for CPC. We said we can accept projects at any time in the year. It's just it tends to be a cycle. So, I mean, if we could, once the assessment is done, have it be reintroduced, whether that's the fall or the winter. I doubt there'll be a special town meeting in the winter, but there might be one in the fall. Just something to think about.
Well, where are we? I don't see anybody jumping in here.
Yeah, this is a
Theoretically, I
tough
agree.
one.
It would be cleaner to wait,
Yeah.
but if there's any way we could do it legally and, with respect to the town calendar, it would be good to do that, I think. But I don't know exactly how to frame it.
I'm just finding this very difficult because I hear the arguments. I mean, we've been trying to encourage proposals, and this is the kind of proposal that we'd like to see. On the other hand, back to Linda's point, we do have a process. There are so many exceptions we'd be making by accepting this proposal without the full approval of the Conservation Commission, and now we have information from the Open Space Committee too. So, I'd like to leave open that option, Michael, of entertaining an application kind of out of cycle, especially if there was going to be a special town meeting. We're not precluded from doing that. Susie is shaking her head. I mean, we have no idea whether or not in the past we used to have special town meetings more often, but I think regardless that it either has to come, as an exception or in the next cycle. there are too many unknowns here.
Yeah, Susie,
I was just wondering if if the bylaw for CPC said it had to come in front of an annual town meeting, or it can be any town meeting?
I think I don't, it's a good question if it's
that
annual.
I don't know. I don't know
I
we'd
don't
have to look.
recall.
Years ago, we made a statement in the application that we would accept out of cycle applications if they had a timely nature, that
But
something
do we
came
know
up
that-
that needed to be addressed.
Do we know that that's allowed under the CPA?
Yes, it is.
It is?
But
Okay.
does it need like the fullness of an annual town meeting to approve it? That's the part I didn't know.
I don't think so.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to look at.
So,
No, it says to the town meeting. The CPC shall make recommendations to the town meeting for acquisition, creation, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't say annual town meeting.
Good.
do I hear a motion?
Linda, you do it.
Nice try, Rita.
All right, I move that we recommend that Phil Parker consider resubmitting his application if there is going to be, I'm not sure that this is right, but anyway,
At a future date.
yes, resubmit at a future date. Thank you, Elaine.
When the appropriate approvals are in place.
Yes, when the appropriate approvals are in place.
I would second that motion.
Hang on a second.
Farrell, second.
When appropriate approvals are in place?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And it's been, who seconded it?
Me, Rita.
Seconded? Okay, let's vote. Rita,
Farrell, aye.
I want to vote aye. Linda, Scott,
Aye.
Michael, the chair.
Daycare, aye. Since we have that discussion between, I just say begrudgingly aye, because it is a good project.
Yeah, no, I think we're all
Yeah,
voting
we
begrudgingly.
Yeah, I
all
just
feel
wanted-
the same way.
Yeah.
And Elaine Palaio.
Palayo, aye.
Okay. So, Philip, I guess what we're going to do is we're going to hold off until the next opportunity arises, whether it's a special town meeting or the following year. But in the meantime, I think the committee would recommend a close relationship to the Southbrook project that we did approve.
And
Yeah.
I know you've been in touch with the Recreation Committee, but it would be great to get their co-sponsorship on this.
And I do apologize from the Recreation Committee for not seeing the email in time. And for the request. Then we'll be on it next time. I
Yeah.
promise.
It also seems like, if the Concom's consultant can be aware of this, just on a practical level, maybe that'll facilitate information flow and planning.
True.
So,
Yeah.
And I encourage you, Phil, to really be really be working with the Conservation Commission, to, be in touch, like Michael said, be in touch with them regarding their process, the Southbrook Trail process, and to understand what permitting may be needed. Wetland permitting.
And don't let it slide, because if there is a special town meeting coming up, we should be ready to go by, and we don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, so the sooner you get it
So the
going.
sooner you get it done, the
Yeah.
better off we're all going to be.
Right?
Yeah.
Usually October, November.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Okay.
any other questions? We got 40 seconds left.
No, you guys can
Great
keep
time
meeting.
management.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, Elaine is your.
Second.
And
All
Michael
those in
second. We're
favor.
done. We're done, folks.
Farrell, aye.
Thank you.
Take care. Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm going to assume everybody's voting yes.